Hello and welcome to episode 18 of the Cloud Computing for the C-Suite show with Brad Nelson and internationally recognised and world's #1 cloud industry expert and thought leader, David Linthicum. This show is sponsored by Nelson Hilliard, cloud computing recruitment specialists placing great people in cloud, IoT, fintech and AI. In this week's show, Dave and I will be talking about a key question for cloud computing strategy. Some enterprises focus on aggressive use of cloud, while others are more passive. Hi Dave, it's great to see you on the C-Suite show this week.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to finding what your spirit animal is. Yeah, so going forward, this is really kind of a subject that's near and dear to my heart, because as people are spending millions and millions of dollars in building out their cloud computing capabilities, they may not be leveraging the cloud in ways that are going to be most beneficial to the business. And kind of what I read an article about is that what's their spirit animal in terms of dealing with cloud computing. And there's a lion that's aggressively working to increase the share of the market, or zebras that are hoping that lions won't take them out, or the groundhogs that live in the den and keep their heads down, and hopefully the cloud computing will go away. And that's kind of the three kind of main categories of businesses out there. So there's the businesses that are looking for cloud computing as really the agility aspect of it to take things to the next level, so they can in essence disrupt their market because they're able to do things quicker, better, faster, use predictive analytics, AI, other capabilities that cloud provides to provide them with more enhanced capabilities at a cheaper price in their business. And there's the zebras out there that are getting in the cloud, but just kind of doing it halfway. And they, typically the global 2000 companies may fall into this category, and so they're in danger of getting taken out by the lions. So Uber and Airbnb and all these other examples of companies that have disrupted industries are something that that people really need to be concerned about. The zebras out there, and then there's the companies that are just doing nothing, and so they may have a few cloud projects and certainly leveraging Salesforce.com and a couple other things, but they just haven't done any adoption, any changing or modernizing of technology at all, and so they're hoping that it'll blow over. Some of the government agencies are, really kind of, fall in this category, but other big companies kind of fall in this category as well. So you got to figure out what you're going to do. So ultimately, are you going to get out there and disrupt your industry that you're in and take some risk and, fail fast and all those things you need to do to be a good company out there and do it? Are you going to wait for somebody to disrupt you and take away your market share? Or are you just going to do nothing and kind of hopefully that you're ignored? And I think that we really need to determine how we're going to leverage cloud-based technology out there in line with the goals and objectives of the business. And I think some organizations out there are missing the mark.
They really are, and it's the tables turned from, like you say, the using the animal analogy. I think it's very good, because where the lions were the king of the jungle, as the famous song goes, but now they really are no longer. Well, the king of the jungle is now the startup, because they can, like you said before, turn on a dime. So they are the ones that are now the predator with regards to the bigger companies that aren't quick enough to embrace cloud technology, like some of the global 2000s, like you say, and they haven't got the dynamics or the shift within the organization to turn as quickly, whereas the startups, i.e. the lion, now can obviously go and take a chunk out of their business.
Yeah, I think that the reality is that organizations kind of understand this as a reality. I mean, so Amazon.com, who'd have thought that those guys from 20 years ago that were just basically selling books, were kind of amusing at the time, would be disrupting Walmart and would put Toys R Us out of business, was just declared Chapter 11 here in the U.S. And car makers, would have thought that Tesla, a new car maker, would pop up and be making electric cars at zero emissions and at a very efficient rate that 0 to 60 in 2.6 seconds. And so we're not in the 60s and 70s anymore, where it's very difficult for these organizations to get into a market. And I think that just laughing it off, like I think a lot of these global 2000 companies are doing, they're going to end up getting taken out. And the reality is that they have to keep up with the market. So my advice is become agile. So in other words, your competitors, being the small startups, the Teslas, the Airbnbs, and the Amazon.coms out there, are basically making their mark, because even though they're large organizations or becoming large organizations, they're able to, in essence, what you said, turn on a dime. They can shift their marketing strategy, their product strategy, the way in which they do produce things. They can acquire companies, assimilate them in a very short period of time, and almost 100% success rate. All these things are able to do versus these, large companies that, kind of admittedly move slow, and they have a culture of being overly cautious. They don't like taking a lot of risks, and they definitely don't like being nimble. Well, the reality is that those guys are going to be the zebras, and the lions are just basically going to take bites out of them until they go away and die. And we're going to see this in droves. Now, I don't want to see anybody go out of business, and I want to see the larger Global 2000 companies, the brand names we've been dealing with for years and years and years, be successful, be able to get into their business. But if they don't leverage technology for the way technology is designed to be leveraged to allow them to get things that are more agile, able to get into markets quicker, things like that, they're going to find they're losing. And that's a shame because, they've been warned.
By yourself, just now, in fact.
Yeah, by myself, but lots of other people have as well. It's been a mantra that people have been talking about for the last, 5 years, whether it's in the business schools or whether it's in the, technology courses, things like that I get into. But it doesn't seem to be taking effect, and it's getting quite concerning. So were I a stockholder in a major Global 2000 company, I would be advising those folks to please take a look at where their market is going and understand how to get ahead of it, versus just basically continuing with the status quo, understanding that they think there's going to be quarter by quarter growth. Eventually that growth is going to go away because other folks are disrupting the market. And we're disrupting it through automation, cloud computing, and other automation techniques allow you to hit above your weight, whether you're a small startup or a Global 2000 company, and you need to find take advantage of that. So you can move into a market and create a splash in a matter of 6 months versus it took 6 years, just 10 years ago. So that should be scary to the Global 2000 companies out there.
Yeah, very scary, very scary. In fact, this is good because I watched an interview the other day with the late Steve Jobs. And very interesting, one of the things that jumped out, he said some fantastic things actually, but one of the key things that he mentioned that resonated with myself, and I'm sure will resonate with a lot of startups, it's almost probably the mantra for a lot of these companies like Uber, Snapchat, etc., is that he believed one of the only reasons that Facebook, no, don't say that. One of the only reasons that he believed that Apple was as successful as it was and continued to be successful was because it had the mindset of a startup, and that was how it functioned. It functioned as a startup.
Well, Apple's a part of the Global 2000, and they have it. So why can't other companies that were founded maybe 100 years ago do the same thing? I think the reality is that cultures are becoming limiting factors in these organizations, but these cultures can change. I've seen lots of big companies really kind of take the bull by the horns, moving in different directions, typically because they receive some sort of pain. So in other words, the market's, dropping away, they're losing revenue, therefore earnings per share is down, and the pressures on them by the investors and the stockholders to start moving in different directions. So we're going to see those sorts of things going forward. But, Microsoft under the new CEO is doing well. They're actually working like a small business. There were questions about that when he took over, but he's able to be successful in doing that, as well as Apple and a lot of the technological companies. But I'm talking about the big oil companies. I'm talking about the big car companies that have been around for hundreds of years. I'm talking about big food producers, out there. They're going to find that they're behind the eight ball in a rather short period of time. So technology becomes an accelerator. And that accelerator will be your acceleration in the market to be successful, or your acceleration out of the market as people, beat the crap out of you in terms of, moving into the space that you didn't think they were able to do. And so ultimately, this is about changing your culture. Ultimately, this is about using technology in a way that technology will make you innovative and delight your customers, which is the ultimate goal here. And ultimately, this is about rethinking and asking questions. And by the way, not fearing failure, the ability to kind of go out there and fail fast as many times as you can and find the right path for your business and then start moving down that path as quickly as possible. And so, we are going to have a disruption in the next 10 years. I think it's going to be a lot of these businesses that are basically been brand names forever and ever, part of the household names are going to, be bought up by various other, companies at bargain prices because they can't keep up with the market because the little guys are leveraging technology to beat them into the ground.
Yeah, 100%. And the thing is, these startups, they offer such a great not all of them, but a lot of them can offer such a great customer experience that it really, like you've just said, the customer experience drives the success of the startup, which in effect draws everyone away from the established business that isn't embracing the technology, that isn't giving that modern day customer experience that people expect through an app or their smartphone or whatever it would be, whether it would be a web, but more likely an app on a smartphone. But yeah, I think it's a very good point and a very good blog actually, Dave. So what I'll do is I'll put a link to this blog in the description box so everyone can have a read of that, if that's okay with you.
That's great. Yeah, please let me know what you think.
Great. Well, Dave, thanks very much for being part of the C-Suite show this week. As always, it's an absolute pleasure to have you on.
It's always good to be here, and find your spirit animal.
Find your spirit animal, folks. Well, look, thanks for watching, everyone. We really hope you enjoyed our show. You can find Dave on Twitter, which is @DavidLinthicum. I'm also on Twitter, which is @Nelson_Hilliard. Remember to like, comment, and subscribe to the channel, and listen out for the podcast as well, which are released weekly. So thanks again for watching, everyone, and listening.